there are no Smeargle Hero Worlds.
Right. I mean, that's one of the interesting things to see how the metagame develops. And now the question is, have people really all figured out their ways to beat Smeargle? As a result, do people expect that and not bring the Smeargle, or do people still think Smeargle is really good in this format? But it looks like we're going to get into it.
All right, and you will see Raul's team on the top here, in the bottom box. Again, that's the dual primals, Kyogre and Groudon, alongside Kangaskhan, Ludicolo, Zapdos, and Bronzong. And Luis will be watching it from his perspective. Luis is running the Xerneas, the Rayquaza, Talonflame, Togekiss, Kangaskhan, and Smeargle. So like I mentioned, Luis's team very aggressive. Talonflame is a very aggressive Pokemon. So
Yep.
a glass cannon. Rayquaza very aggressive. Xerneas, those Geomancy sweeps are very real. And then a bunch of supporters like the Togekiss and the Smeargle to help back them up.
Yeah, I think if I'm Raul here, I definitely want to prioritize the Bronzong a little bit. There aren't too many Pokemon here that can really threaten the Bronzong. We have Talonflame, which might have a Fire-type attack. Rayquaza could have a Fire-type attack, as can Togekiss. But Bronzong in general can threaten Xerneas, Smeargle, and Togekiss a fair amount. Of course, the Fairy typing, and then if it has a Lumberry, can take a Dark Void from Smeargle and wake up from it. So that's a big deal here. We're going to get into it.
All right, well, we are ready for this game. Luis Alberto Rubio versus Raul Flores. Should be an exciting matchup. I love watching these X-Ray teams play. They're just, they are very explosive. Things get real very quickly. And it looks like we are going to have our first Kangaskhan Smeargle lead of the tournament up against Kangaskhan Bronzong. So Luis is choosing to lead with the Kangaskhan Smeargle, and Raul is going to go with that Bronzong and Kangaskhan, sort of an anti-Smeargle lead, potentially.
Yeah, I do believe this is actually the second game between the two of them already. I think Raul might have won the first one, so Luis is actually down at this point, and both players are actually 0-1 as well. So
yeah.
You're definitely feeling the pressure at this point, because if you lose here, then you're not out of the tournament, but you are basically starting off in the worst position possible.
Yeah, no one wants to go 0-2. I mean, it's still possible for them to continue through the rest of the tournament and make it to day 2, but it's a very difficult position to be in if you go drop both of those. So both of these players trying to avoid getting in that position. Looks like Raul will go ahead and Mega Evolve his Kangaskhan, as will Luis. Oh, actually, sorry, Raul did not. Luis did, though. Raul does go for the Fake Out onto the Smeargle, while Luis is going to go for the Fake Out onto Bronzong. So trading Fake Outs there. Both of the partners of Kangaskhan taking the Fake Out damage and flinching and not able to make a move here.
Yeah, so obviously if you're curious why the Kangaskhan didn't Mega Evolve on Raul's side, that's because he probably has that inner focus, so he was expecting maybe a Fake Out from Luis's Kangaskhan to target into it.
Although it went first anyway.
Right, exactly. But, that's a 50% chance you don't want to risk, and so playing on the safe side. However, now the Kangaskhan on Luis's end is going to be faster, so it does have that potential to just target down that Kangaskhan with an attack. Smeargle here, if it has a Choice Scarf, of course, can just outspeed and Dark Void both Pokemon, so that's a big deal as well. Bronzong looks okay here. We do see the Dark Void.
Yeah, the Dark Void comes out from Smeargle, will connect with Raul's Pokemon. Kangaskhan will go to sleep. Looks like the Bronzong will also go to sleep, needs that Lumberry to wake up. Bronzong does carry the Lumberry, will be able to wake up here, may be able to deal some damage back to the Smeargle. Luis will go ahead and Power Up Punch on his Kangaskhan, just going to make sure that it is as beefy and powerful as possible while dealing a lot of damage back to Raul's Kangaskhan. Gets those attack boosts. Kangaskhan on Raul's side will be asleep right now. And it looks like Bronzong goes for the Trick Room, trying to make sure that it can deal some damage here. But Kangaskhan's asleep, would need a one-turn wake-up to actually do anything here.
Yeah, I was going to say, kind of a curious decision for the Kangaskhan not to Mega Evolve, because it does take more damage from that Power-Up Punch or any attack from Kangaskhan, but makes a little bit more sense now. If you are max speed Kangaskhan, you might speed tie with the opposing Kangaskhan. Now that you're setting up Trick Room, if you do get that one-turn wake-up, you could, guarantee to outspeed the opposing Kangaskhan since you're still slower, so faster under Trick Room and get an attack off. And we don't see any switch-outs, so Kangaskhan is going to Mega Evolve. Can it wake up?
Yeah, Raul's Kangaskhan needs to wake up for this Mega Evolution to mean anything, or else it will just go down to Luis's. Bronzong does go for a Gyro Ball, will be able to connect with the Smeargle, will deal a lot of damage, actually is enough to pick up the KO, so Smeargle will go down there. Already off the field, Gyro Ball doing work. Kangaskhan not able to wake up though, and another Power Up Punch coming out from Luis, getting very greedy with that, but able to take out the Kangaskhan in one hit and get a free boost.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best attack you can use. There's no reason to go for a return or a double edge or a sucker punch. Power up punch not only picks up the knockout onto Kangaskhan at that point, you also get to increase your attack, so relatively risk-free. One interesting thing is, now that this Kangaskhan is at +3 attack, it could have enough firepower to deal with that Bronzong, but we do see some pretty strong Pokemon switching in here.
All right, well, Groudon's out on the field for Raul. I was getting kind of excited with that Togekiss, but Groudon, with its Precipice Blades, may just be able to ignore whatever that Togekiss can deal back. Of course, maybe having Helping Hand. Helping Hand with that +3 Kangaskhan, that's pretty scary.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that can happen here right now. One interesting thing to note is that Luis opted not to bring both of his restricted legendaries, so that's a big deal here because, anytime you choose to not bring a restricted, you have to think very hard about why you're not doing so. So, maybe not bringing that Xerneas since Raul does have that Bronzong, but Togekiss here, of course, can redirect attacks away, but the thing with Groudon is you never know what kind of set it's running until you see it. So if it has something like an Eruption would be deadly. But Kangaskhan, of course, is at that +3 attack, so a Sucker Punch could actually knock out Bronzong or do a lot of damage to Groudon. So if you're Raul, you definitely still have to be very careful here because Sucker Punch is a very real threat.
All right, well, Kangaskhan threatening the Sucker Punch onto Bronzong. Togekiss will go for the Follow Me, does not want to have that Kangaskhan take any extra damage here. Bronzong actually going for Gravity here, really foreshadowing some Precipice Blades coming out from that Groudon. So Bronzong will use the Gravity, can't stay airborne anymore because of it, but Groudon will be able to deal damage with the Precipice Blades to both the Togekiss and the Kangaskhan. Deals a lot of damage, but Kangaskhan is still up. Kangaskhan does have that boosted return now onto Groudon that deals so much damage. And you know what? Luis may not have brought both of his restricted Pokemon, but he brought Mega Kangaskhan, which is just as good.
I mean, there's a reason why Mega Kangaskhan's been so good since it's been introduced in VGC, right? Dominated the World Championships last year, and fantastic damage out here. But it's still far from over if you're Raul. I think that you're still in a very good position. And one of the tricky things about using Xerneas or Rayquaza is you don't have a way to control the weather fully. Rayquaza, of course, with Airlock can decrease the damage of water fire type attacks from Kyogre and Groudon. But there's no option to say switch into a Groudon to completely negate the Kyogre's chance of damaging. And that's a big deal here because Kyogre could get a pretty free opportunity to attack. But of course, once again, Kangaskhan still is threatening with that Sucker Punch. But that Bronzong is still looking like it's very difficult to knock out. And, Luis's team is already not very well equipped to deal with it. And he's in a pretty bad position if he wants to, kind of knock it out right now because it's actually a really big offensive threat against both Kangaskhan and Togekiss.
This could really come down to what water type attack that Kyogre is running.
Right.
If it's only running Water Spout as its only spread attack to hit both the Kangaskhan and the Togekiss, that could be disastrous for Raul. But it looks like Kyogre is going to protect, does not want to take any damage from a Sucker Punch coming in, just wants to try to get that Bronzong to deal as much damage as possible. Kangaskhan does go for the Sucker Punch into the Protect. Bronzong will use the Gyro Ball onto the Togekiss, so we'll be able to connect with the Togekiss, deal a lot of damage.
Ooh.
Not quite enough. Togekiss will hold on with 7 hit points, but next turn, with Trick Room still up, Bronzong can take out the Togekiss and then full power attack onto that Kangaskhan. Don't even have to worry about redirection.
Yeah, that was a risky turn there because if you just Sucker Punch the Bronzong, then that's a knockout. But obviously, Kyogre is the bigger threat right now. I don't think a +3 Sucker Punch would knock it out. We do see a double and he gets it.
Kangaskhan will not be able to deal any damage to that Kyogre.
Oh, the Bronzong target nails it.
Adapts. Even with the double protect, gets the Sucker Punch off onto Bronzong. Bronzong goes down, and Kyogre, it's looked really, really nice protecting with that double protect, but the Trick Room is over. Kangaskhan should be faster now, and doesn't have to worry about Sucker Punch anymore. It can just go for returns.
Yeah, and that's why priority is so strong, especially against Trick Room teams. Normally, it's like you set up Trick Room and suddenly your Pokemon are just faster than everything because, the opponent's Pokemon are going to be really fast outside of Trick Room. But with that priority, that's why stuff like Talonflame are able to succeed in this format, even though we've seen a little bit less of it. For example, it helps against Xerneas. Even if it gets that Geomancy boost off, if you get some damage out before, it can be in Brave Bird KO range. And here under Trick Room, it's able to, that Kangaskhan was able to threaten with Sucker Punch, and that's because Luis was able to get all these power-up punches off early on and got to +3 attack, and at that point, it does so much damage. Able to one-hit knock out the Groudon with the return and then one-hit KOing the Bronzong as well. So very, very well played with Kangaskhan. Kangaskhan's a really good Pokemon, but you don't expect it to kind of sweep through every Pokemon there, including the restricted legendaries, and they're really pulled off so much work, basically picking up 3 knockouts.
Well, that just speaks to what we haven't seen so far at this tournament, which is much Intimidate.
Right.
So that Kangaskhan Kangaskhan, without Intimidate, was still able to just run over that team because
Exactly.
you could not get rid of its boost. And that was a really heads-up play from Luis to switch out, because Kyogre was pretty tempting because it had just used Protect. There was very low chance that it would be able to get a double Protect or even go for the double Protect.
Right.
But switching over to the Bronzong, identifying the last turn of Trick Room, taking out the Bronzong, and then being in a good position to take out the Kyogre outside of Trick Room. Real heads-up play there from Luis.
Right, and you have to think they could have gone completely a different way, right? If Bronzong just goes for a non-attacking, anything that's not Gyro Ball, and Kyogre goes for a Water Spout or an Origin Pulse, then suddenly you pick up a double knockout, Trick Room expires, and you've got Bronzong and Kyogre against Luis's last one, and Bronzong Kyogre actually beat everything that Luis had, so it was really one of those plays where it's like, I actually could have won the game completely if I just made the other play, but that was really clever of Luis to go for the Sucker Punch onto the Bronzong. If he didn't do that, most likely would have been game over, so very, very nicely done. And I think like Raul went a little bit too aggressive. He didn't need to be attacking with Bronzong constantly, but it's just so scary when you stare down a Kangaskhan at +3 attack. Like,
yeah, I feel like you have to get rid of it.
Right, yeah, and you feel the pressure, so as a result, sometimes you aggressively target down. It doesn't pay out in his favor, but this is actually going to be game 3 between both of these players.
Our
now.
First game 3 of the tournament.
It is, and we didn't get to see how game 1 played out, but I'm excited, especially because these players are once again both 0-1, so the loser of this will drop to 0-2, meaning they'll have to win every game here on out if they want to make it to day 2. Meanwhile, the winner feels, a little bit more relieved knowing that despite that first round loss, you've been able to recover.
Yeah, if you thought it was stressful going into the first round, imagine going into the third round 0-2 and knowing you have to win out.
Yeah.
But here we are, game 2, Luis Alberto Rubio versus Raul Flores. Raul on the top with the Bronzong Kangaskhan up against Luis Alberto Rubio with the Smeargle and Kangaskhan. So same leads here. Got the Bronzong out for Raul. We've seen it has that Lumberry. Seems to be the Pokemon of choice, this lead matchup of choice for Raul to take care of that Smeargle.
Yeah, and I get this lead matchup a lot because it feels like Raul doesn't have any other way to deal with Kangaskhan Smeargle, so at least this gives him some options. But clearly we saw this lead matchup the last time it didn't work out too well.
Yeah.
A part of it was obviously Kangaskhan sleeping for more than one turn, but Raul has got to think of something maybe a little bit different because that first game didn't work out very well. We do know that this Smeargle was Choice Scarfed as it moved before everything else, so has that constant threat of Dark Void. So maybe Raul was hoping for a Dark Void miss. That would be big, but I'm curious to see how both players kind of switch up their strategy.
Wow, Raul does go for the Mega Evolution on Kangaskhan, but into Luis, who did not at all. No Mega Evolution from Luis.
Oh, it's not Inner Focus!
It's not Inner Focus, and it still takes the flinch. Dark Void will connect on Raul's side. But Kangaskhan avoids it. Bronzong will wake up, but the huge avoid from Raul's Kangaskhan not going to take any damage there, or not going to go to sleep, and Trick Room will be set up by Raul. Fortunately, since Luis didn't Mega Evolve his Kangaskhan, should be slower, but Smeargle's not in a good position right now.
Right, maybe that was the reason why he didn't Mega Evolve Kangaskhan. Normally you don't Mega Evolve your Kangaskhan because you have Inner Focus and you're expecting Fake Out, which is probably what we all thought here.
Yeah.
But, in this case, maybe just expecting the Trick Room. However, we know that it doesn't have Low Kick. It only has Power Up Punch, so it can't really deal that much damage. Of course, it could return the Kangaskhan on Raul's end, but that's not enough for a knockdown. Like you said, this Smeargle is a sitting duck right now. It's the slowest Pokemon on the field.
And it's Choice Scarf.
Exactly. There's a good chance that
we know what it's going to do.
Right. It has to switch out or Dark Void here. Gyro Ball might actually be able to pick up the one-hit knockout by itself.
Yeah.
So there's a very real threat here that Raul was able to pick up a double knockout. Very unfortunate miss there on Kangaskhan, but that's what I was saying. Maybe he needs to hope for something, and he did change who he faked out this time, and that was a big deal as well.
Yeah, and that's just what happens when you play with Smeargle sometimes. Smeargle will switch out for Rayquaza this time. So one of the few times where we will see a Rayquaza out on the field without any weather to nullify.
Yep.
But Raul will go ahead and set the gravity. Sucker Punch did not affect it because of that. And Kangaskhan on Raul's side will go for the double edge. Will connect with the Rayquaza on the switch, and that's so much damage.
Gosh!
Rayquaza goes down. One-hit KO. I mean, you wanted to get the Smeargle out of there, but you can't give up your restricted like that. That's so unfortunate for Luis.
Yeah, Luis still hasn't even Mega Evolved his Kangaskhan. Maybe trying to Mega Evolve the Rayquaza, but this is kind of a disaster for him here, and it would be really impressive for him to recover from the game. The reason why I say that is because Kangaskhan right now, it does have the advantage in that now it is still slower and can maybe one-hit knock out the Kangaskhan since it does have that recoil damage. But Bronzong here, obviously a pretty big threat. Gyro Ball does a fair amount of damage to both Kangaskhan and Togekiss, and Raul still has both of his restricted Pokemon in the back.
And Kangaskhan's the only threat for Luis now.
Right, exactly. If you can knock out this Kangaskhan, it's most likely going to be game over, especially if you can do it before Trick Room expires, because then that Smeargle doesn't have any options. Has to basically just get knocked out under Trick Room.
All right, well, it looks like Luis is just going to go for a follow me play on that Togekiss, just trying to take as much away, but Hypnosis out in gravity will connect onto Togekiss, so Togekiss will go to sleep here. Does not have a Lum Berry or anything else to protect it. Power-up punch coming out from Luis, knows that he needs to start dealing some damage, but that's still going to leave Kangaskhan up. So Luis will get some nice boosts on his own Kangaskhan, but Raul still sticking around, and a double edge from that Kangaskhan will connect with that Togekiss and deal a lot back. Just about 75% of the hit points of that Togekiss, and it does faint from the double edge recoil though, which is sort of an indirect knockout for Luis.
Yeah, I think if I'm Raul there, I'm actually pretty content though, because now I just get a free switch into my Groudon and I can just Precipice Blades. I don't think there's very much that Luis can do to stop that, because, you know, sure the Kangaskhan is boosted, but it can't knock out the Groudon unless maybe a double critical hit Sucker Punch. Kangaskhan's also not a Pokemon that typically carries Protect, so that's also an issue, and this Togekiss, you know, is asleep as well. So I think Raul might have just set himself up perfectly for a Groudon Bronzong kind of sweep here. Maybe if Smeargle in the back can take a Precipice Blade, since Trick Room is expiring soon, can switch in and maybe hope for a Dark Void, but I don't expect that to be able to survive with Precipice Blades. Maybe if it's really defensive, but those Choice Scarf Smeargles typically they want to invest in very much speed. No switch outs here, and Togekiss to stay asleep.
Yeah, Togekiss is still snoozing. Kangaskhan goes for a Sucker Punch, but into the Bronzong it looks like, or maybe the Groudon there, but Hypnosis will connect with the Kangaskhan with the Gravity. So if it went for the Sucker Punch, it looks like it was on Bronzong, so no Sword Stance plays here. Groudon just going to go for as much damage as possible. Not quite enough to pick up the KO onto Kangaskhan, but 5 hit points and a sleep, and needs at least 1 turn of sleep here. That's going to be about it for Luis.
Smeargle does come in here. Don't think that's enough. I don't think Trick Room expired
still
yet.
up.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so that's probably the biggest deal. Yeah, I don't, even if Kangaskhan went for a return there, I don't think he could have done very much. I think you might have had to hope for a double crit Sucker Punch there onto Groudon, get something off. But
the only possible choice there would be able to potentially wake up this turn.
Right. But the early game was just so, it went so poorly for Luis there. Raul got everything he wanted. The Dark Void miss was just icing on top, but that made it so much easier for him to play around. In that first turn, I mean, Kangaskhan just didn't Mega Evolve for the first couple of turns. Maybe trying to play the kind of speed mind games with Bronzong and Trick Room up, but as a result, Kangaskhan wasn't able to do very much damage, and it got chunked. Like, that first Fake Out did around, 1/3 of its damage, and so it was always at a pretty low HP range right from the start.
All right, well, Luis's Kangaskhan is not able to wake up, so will be taking this Gyro Ball for free. Bronzong easily able to pick up that KO, and now Groudon will be able to use the Fire Punch onto that Smeargle. Going to go ahead and punch it down. Easy one-hit KO onto Smeargle, and Raul Flores will take this set 2-1 and advance as 1-1 going into round 3.
Yeah, that was, it's funny because it was pretty much the same Pokemon, but it played out so differently right from that first turn. And that's one of the things I was kind of curious about. Do they end up making the same play and end up Kangaskhan, the different Kangaskhan ended up not Mega Evolving, the Fake Out target was different, Dark Void missed, and so there was so much going on, but I think that first turn just put Raul in such a good position, and he was able to play smart and still continue to capitalize off it. He counted his Trick Room turns really, really well, got Gravity up right when he needed to, and Precipice Blaze was kind of able to sweep away. Yeah,
and we talked about this a little bit in the first game of the day. Timing your Trick Rooms is incredibly important.
Absolutely.
You have to have your Trick Rooms set up on the exact turn that you want to start going on the offensive.
Yep.
And Raul was able to do that in that last game that we just watched. And you can see why Trick Room is always, one of those strategies to look out for, because it's very powerful when you can get it set up. Trick Room, Gravity, Bronzong with those Hypnosis and Gravity, it's pretty close to unstoppable if you get all of it set up.
Yeah, and I think one of the main issues is kind of a team-building thing for Luis's end. He does not have many great answers to that Bronzong. He was just kind of hoping, okay, I'll put it to sleep, but it had the Lum Berry, obviously.
Yeah.
We didn't see Talonflame. Rayquaza never really did any damage as well. That game, or the last 2 games we saw, the restricted Pokemon really didn't do anything. They barely came out, and when they did, that Rayquaza was just knocked out in 1 hit. And that's not something that's really good. A lot of this format is heavily dependent on how well you play your restricted Pokemon, but, Bronzong has a really good matchup against Xerneas and Rayquaza, especially if Rayquaza doesn't have something like a Fire-type attack. If Rayquaza had Overheat, I think then you can change up your strategy a little bit but because we didn't ever see a fire type attack, and maybe Luis did have one, but we never saw one, and that Bronzong was able to put in so much work. Like, the only reason why Luis was able to win that first game was because he was able to catch it off Sucker Punch. But Raul, you saw there, never let the Sucker Punch go off. He just played it safe, got the gravity up, got, you know, the hypnosises down, which were, you know, very accurate, obviously, once gravity goes up, and just played it safe from there, realizing you don't really have a way to deal with my Bronzong at all. Like, you literally cannot touch it with your Pokemon. I'd expect at least 1 or 2 fire-type attacks on Luis's team, but under Trick Room, it's so hard to get those attacks off, and those probably don't even knock out the Bronzong.
Yeah, I mean, we'll probably be seeing a little bit more of this matchup throughout the day as the tournament continues. For right now, we actually have an interview with our most recent victor, Raul Flores, down on the floor.
Thanks, guys. I am here with Raul on the main stage. Now, that was one of the first matches that we've seen on the stream that actually went to full 3 games. It was 2-1. How does it feel to be on stream and get to that 3rd game?
Well, I'm really nervous. Like, I'm shaking. I'm still shaking. I was shaking during the game, so I don't know. It feels great to be here.
You're taking some deep breaths, I noticed, to calm yourself down. What advice might you have for anyone else who might end up playing on the stream while they're here?
Well, just concentrate and I don't know, have fun. It's just a game. Let's all have fun and have a nice day.
That is what it's about. Well, those 3 games were pretty contentious. Give us a brief play-by-play on what were the most important moments in your match.
Well, first of all, the main thing that I noticed is that if I manage to set up Trick Room with my Bronzong, I could have an advantage because my Pokemon were slower. And yeah, so he tried to stop me from setting up Trick Room with his Scarf Miracle and his Fake Out Pressure. So I don't know, it depended on what plays we made to set up Trick Room and to use the most out of those Trick Room turns.
If people were watching your match, what do you think is the most important thing they could learn from what they just saw?
Scarf's Miracle is stupid.
Awesome. Now, what are you going to do to make sure that you're ready to continue throughout this whole weekend in the competition?
Well, I don't know. I'm not expecting much. I won now, but I lost my first game. I'll try to do my best and keep up. I don't know.
And you are here from Mexico. Is there anyone you want to say hi to or thanks to or a good shout out for your team or your country?
Well, to all the players in Mexico that helped me in Victoria, Tony, the organizer, Hugo, Sebas, all the players that helped me and all, I don't know, that helped me, and I'm so nervous, sorry. All those who helped me with team, with testing, or just playing in the format. I don't know.
That's great. Well, thank you. We'll let you catch your breath. Really appreciate it. And guys, back to you, casters.